Hey guys, so apparently we are live. So I would love some comments here to be sure I did right. So it's my very first StreamYard here. So I might make some mistakes and error, and I really hope you will be nice and gentle with us. But yeah, it's definitely not about me today. It's all about Amine Hammou, my new friend, fellow misfit, fellow brand specialist, that I would love to introduce you a little bit. So Amine Hammou, so you describe yourself as rebellious. Like I read on your bio, defiant, disruptive, ungovernable, rogue, insubordinate. I love that. I really love that. And so you have a professional misfit conductor for all the rebels and outsiders of the world. It definitely resonated big time with me. Could you add a little bit around that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey everybody, thank you for showing up to the live. I am as excited as Kevin is. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert, so it's a skill for me to be on video, but I'm learning as I go. So, yeah, I define myself as a professional misfit and as a rebel for all the outsiders of the world, because that's who I am. I feel like that was my identity since 1998. I'm already thinking of a merch of a hoodie that has that quote "Misfits since 1998." But yeah, that's kind of who I am. I learned that over time, and now that I have built somehow my personal brand and my online reputation, and I'm sharing content, educating people how to do the same, I feel like it's my share of responsibility to give back to the world, to give back to misfits like me who feels lost, who feel like they are in their own way, and eventually to be there, like you say, they're catalyst. Or as a proud misfit, I want to be there for them and help them find their way back home or their misfit way. So, yeah, that's me.
I really love that. And thank you so much for sharing that. And that's why we resonated so much. At least I resonated with you when I discovered you. When I was doing my research over LinkedIn, I found your profile and I was, whoa, I want to meet that guy. We are definitely aligned here. And, in a different paradigm, I could have saw you as a potential competition. Like, ooh, I need to be very cautious. We are way too much on the same side here. So we might have friction. I decided to go the other road and really reach out and connect with you because I feel nowadays it's not competition time anymore. It's all about collaboration, and especially like you and I believe we are definitely on the same boat here. That we want to help fellow misfits make it big and embrace their uniqueness. So we have a slightly different way to approach it, but we I feel we are definitely aligned here. So yeah, thank you so much for accepting that invitation. It really means a lot. Um, and yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I said thank you for having me, and I can already see some people joining the live. Hey, Oli, Daniel, Jane, and Theodore. I feel so good that people are actually here listening to us. It feels so humble. I'm so humble and grateful for this. Honestly, I wish more people are like you guys. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, really appreciate. So I see Oli is here, Jane is here, Daniel. I was looking forward. I don't know if you have been able to cover the time, Daniel, but at least you are here in our hearts because we know. Well, I mean, don't know you yet, I believe, but I know you're one of us. You're one fellow misfit as well. So definitely looking forward to it. But okay, we had a little warm up. Let's start things. Let's start shaking things up.
Let's
I
go.
mean, I would love you to explain us how did you first realize you were a misfit?
Right. Okay. Very good question. When did I first realize that I was a misfit? So this goes back. probably a couple years ago, maybe even more, when I was building this community called the Brand Orchestrate. So, for those who don't know what Brand Orchestrate is, it's kind of the name of my company right now, but it wasn't like that at the beginning. So, I was doing this kind of clubhouse thing where I was doing like audio interviews, listening on Clubhouse. The best thing an introvert do is to speak without having their video on. So that was the Clubhouse thing was like the best thing for me. So I was doing that for a while, and then I started building an audience, and people were like gathering around, and they were like, "Emmy, this is amazing. Please make more events and more conversations on Clubhouse. We're excited to be there." And the conversations were around branding specifically. So for all of you branding people, this is a shout out to you. But that's how the name Brand Orchestrate came into place, to orchestrate brands. That was the name for the community of the people in Clubhouse. And that escalated for almost 2 years, where I was like intensively building that community. And I was doing events on LinkedIn, events off LinkedIn. I was growing my audience, and I was teaching and sharing and gathering all the thought leaders and experts in the branding space within that community. So I was doing that for forever. And then I met this amazing friend. His name is Matt King. Kudos to you, Matt. And we were having this very casual conversation. We were talking about going to the beach, and it was the summer, and we were like exhausted from work. But it's a community. So with your community friends, you get to talk and have fun, not just work, work, work. And then I talked to him and I told him, hey, listen, as much as people want to go to the beach and have fun and it's the summer, I kind of still want to keep doing this. I still want to keep going and working and doing these kind of events, because if this is the downtime for people, the misfits and the rebels out there need us the most, because this is maybe the time of the year where they are most lonely, because everybody's outside doing their thing. And I didn't even know the word misfit then, but he told me, Emine, so you're like a misfit. You're like and I was like, oh, that's a funny word, a misfit. So like you don't fit. You're like miss and then fit. I was like, is that like a gym word where like you're fat? Is that the fit? You're fat, so misfit. What is that? And I took it on a historical level, and he started explaining to me, no, that's not it. I mean, it's misfit is people like you and I who feel like they don't belong to a specific place, who feel like they are different in all the ways possible. And that's kind of what a misfit is in a very simple definition. And he told me, you're a misfit. And I was like, no, I don't like that word. I just didn't like it back then. So I was doing my thing. I kept working. I kept like going back into momentum. But at some point, and this is how most strategic decisions comes into place, is it takes time to connect the dots, and for you to connect the dots you have to look them backwards. So I was like, okay, let me just go do my thing. After 3-4 months out of that conversation, I started finding all the words on, like, I started looking at the words on social media and YouTube and stuff, and there's words like mavericks, words like rebels, rare breeds, the book Rare Breeds from Sunny Benel, and there's this word misfit that keeps on popping up in almost every single one of them. And I'm like, interesting. Let me dig deeper. What is this whole misfit thing about? And yeah, that's kind of how I found about the word, sorry. And then I went deeper and I was like, let me just Google on LinkedIn and check what this misfit means. Who are these misfit people? So yeah, exactly. I was just trying to fit in. I was just trying to fit this word in a box. It's so crazy because we as misfits do not want to fit words in a box. So I started meeting people, like the brand mother, another one from, I cannot recall her name. I believe it's Melanie, but she calls herself professional misfit, and all these people identifying as a misfit. And now I met you as well, and I'm like, there is something here. Is it just me, or are these people like using misfit as a positive reinforcement rather than a negative one? Are these people like feeling so energized in their misfit identity? And the answer was yes, because I had conversations with them and all of them were like cheering up the word misfit, the identity of a misfit. And that's what things clicked up with me. That's where I started seeing the positive of this word. That I don't fit in, and that's okay, and that's a good thing. Because that means that I'm different in so many ways. Because that means that I have so many unique skills and personality traits that most people don't even bother looking up onto or discovering, or they are even afraid of putting that extra skin from the layer. But I'm not that people. I am all in or nothing kind of guy. So that's kind of how I found the word misfit and my relationship with it. And the more the time goes, the more I just feel connected to it, and it just makes sense in so many ways. And eventually, like in today 2023, I'm like doing this creative thing called the Misfit Way, where I help lost misfits just like myself. I was lost, find their way back home, find their misfit way. And that's how I feel. But anyways, I don't want to. I kind of just jumped to so many topics here. Back to you, Kevin.
Don't worry. And you know what? It's the beauty of that. And I love how you emphasize, actually, without knowing, one of my favorite points. So you self-describe as an introvert, right? And many people believe that introverts are very shy, very quiet people. They don't talk much. They avoid talking at all costs, which is very false. Actually, you absolutely proved one of my favorite points. When you connect with an introvert on one specific topic they're passionate about, look what happens. You said you were an introvert, and then you went all fiery around that. I love that. I love, and I feel it's very inspiring. And being an introvert doesn't mean being a shy person. It's something that you can be introvert and shy, and you can be extrovert and shy. I'm mostly extrovert. I still have a very strong introvert. But I used to be extremely shy, even though my main aspect was extrovert. But yeah, I really love that. So please don't apologize for being passionate and going wild with what makes you tick. Just
Absolutely.
yeah.
Sorry, I
Thank
was
you.
going to say, what's your story with the word misfits? Like, I'm curious because I believe you're
So
probably
yeah,
misfit.
so I have several ones actually, but and yeah, very first, thank you for asking me that question. I love that. We make it a two-way street. My initial intention was more to be me interviewing you, but yeah, absolutely, let's make it back and forth. And so yeah, I shared at least some big pieces of the story. So actually, the very first time I met that word misfit was through a TV show called Misfits of Science, an old 80s TV show. And I've been deeply in love with that show. It was all about a bunch of nerds, of people very into science, like your cliche, especially like imagine the 80s, imagine the cliches they had around science and nerds. So you had those guys that developed superpowers. And so those guys were all into science and cool, weird stuff, and they developed superpowers Marvel style. So
Yeah,
I was still a kid, and I was amazed by those guys. So it's the very first time I've been in contact with that word misfit. And then something like 20 years ago now, almost 20 years ago, another TV show in the UK called Just Misfits was talking once again of guys with superpowers, but this time it was teenagers doing service. Basically they were trying to avoid jail. How is it called in English again? When you have to do a community service, right? They were doing community service, and they were just lost pups, right? Lost ugly ducks, like Ollie mentioned in the comments, and they were just trying to fit in, to find their place in that society that apparently didn't have any place for them. And then on top of that, they got superpowers. And I feel that these two aspects, to me, resonate deeply, and it's a beautiful metaphor of what misfits are. The same way, for so long, people with autism have been looked down upon, that they were less than other people, that they were broken, quote unquote, that kind of things. When, in my opinion, people with autism are much, much more than us. They see the world in amazing ways. And or people with Down syndrome, for me, they are more than special, special in the very best way of the term. Like all those people that have been branded, labeled as weird, as freaks, as whatever you want to call them. Actually, I believe they are even more special because they let their light shine even brighter. The thing is, because on a rule of thumb, people tend to be very cautious with difference,
Yeah.
especially kids. I don't know about you, but I've been bullied when I was a kid because I was different. You might have been as well, and so many people have been bullied for their difference. And it's kind of natural. We've been wired as human beings to be very cautious with difference because difference might mean danger.
Right.
Like the caveman, for the caveman, difference could be a life threat. Actually, anything out of the ordinary could be a direct life threat. So we've been wired for millions of years like that, and it's very very difficult to change that. But I believe it's a deadly trap actually, and we are missing out big time. And I really have the feeling that humankind is evolving, has widely evolved in the last hundreds or even tens of days, dozens of years, and we are really on the massive verge of change. That the world is changing big time. People are more and more accepting things that would have been absolutely impossible to imagine not so long ago. Like not so long ago, gay people were burned alive. People that were as witches were burnt alive or killed on the spot. These, unfortunately, these things still happen nowadays, right? So many people are still very adverse to difference. But I really feel the world is evolving in the right direction. There's still a lot of work to do, obviously, but we have many people around us. So I believe you and I are part of those people trying to change positively the world. The people in the House of Business community are also in the same range. Zion Inogiru in his amazing community, trying also to change the world through positivity. So I feel we totally turned the paradigm around. So there's still a lot of work to do, but we're getting there.
Yeah, well, I can definitely not reply on everything you said, but one of those were the idea of you finding the word misfits because it felt like it's a superpower. So I've been exploring the idea of superhuman, superpowers, dreams, dreamers, and stuff like that. And I think Misfit could eventually or potentially be an origin from that. There is this beautiful story of a woman called Jessica Cox, and Jessica was born with this rare gift of being armless. So she doesn't have arms, she only have legs. And this is not a sad story because Jessica was not wired by her environment that she's now limited as a misfit to not do what she wants, to not achieve her goals, to not dream big. No, she was actually very encouraged to chase her dreams. She was born and raised with the right mindset of you could do the impossible, you could do whatever you possibly want if you choose. what that is, and she took that by heart and she started working towards it. It wasn't really easy because, as every superhero movie, we see that 80% of the movie is the superhero struggling and fighting and challenges, and he loses, and then the last bit of it is where the superhero like conquers his enemies. So it's kind of the same in Jessica's story. She was bullied in school just like you, and she was always being told that um, you're not adequate, you don't have the skills, you cannot write, you cannot do this and that. And at some point she cracked up and she got this electric or this mechanical arm just so that she fit in the box of the society or the school. And the moment she did that, she felt like she wasn't being herself. She felt like, this is not who I am, I'm just trying to show up for other people in a very fake way. So she did that for a while, and guess what happened? She came back to her Misfit origins and she removed the arm and she was like, no, screw this, and sorry about the language, but screw this. I'm gonna do what I do best. I'm gonna write with my legs. I'm gonna run away. I'm gonna be a weirdo, introverted, whatever kind of kid. And guess, after 10 to like 20 years further in her journey, Jessica become this impossible woman. She started learning Taekwondo, which is a kind of martial art, and she eventually became black belt Taekwondo. She graduated as a PhD student, and the most craziest thing that she did was she learned how to surf like a normal kid. She started surfing without hands to control the board. And the most iconic thing that she did is she learned and she got certified as the only female, or even the only person who's armless, who can drive a professional one-person plane. She literally drive the plane as an armless, gifted introvert misfit. And that's the kind of like limitless boundaries that you can break if you start leaning into who you are. She started developing this thing called the possible thinking mindset of everything is possible. Nothing is impossible, but you have to choose and you have to decide and you have to sacrifice. Because for you to be the best in the world, for you to be good, for you to achieve a certain thing, you have to go through some sacrifices. You have to go through some challenges. You cannot be a misfit without all those challenges that you face. You cannot be the best in the world without having some enemies and some competition and some people who wants to put you down. So that's the story, and I think every misfit should learn and should hear. But all of that started with a dream. She had this dream of becoming a pilot, and she never was told that you cannot do it. So she learned the skills, and she started shifting the questions of, instead of saying, is this possible? She asked the question, how can I make this possible? She asked the question, how? It's like, I already know this is possible. I already know it can be done. The question is how? What do I need to learn? What do I need to do? Who do I need to become in order to get there? So that's maybe a misfit lesson that could help someone out there. Anyways, back to you, Kevin.
I love that story so much, and if you haven't already shared it, I really want to invite you to share that story with that person's authorization, of course. But that's amazing, and it has to be made more and more known that it's so inspiring. Like if she was able to do all of that without arms. Imagine, like, if we have our arms, like, imagine how what we can achieve. And like, we tend to put limits on ourselves, and usually we are not all by ourselves doing that, right? We are helped with the culture around us, with so many different elements, external elements, but still we are putting our own limits on ourselves. And I feel it's sad and disheartening that so many people kind of bully themselves, and I've done that after I've been bullied for 8 long years. I started to bully myself. I was my own bully, actually. I learned my lesson so well that I became a master bully to myself. I didn't need any external bullies, actually. And then I was able to turn it around decades later. But I feel so many people tend to do that. On average, we tend to have 90% of our thoughts that are negative. 90%. And that can be improved through mindfulness, meditation, many different practices. And basically, it's caring about what is really important to us and finding the right environments. And talking about environment, there was something very, very sweet to me that resonated to me a lot in your bio. Uh, at some point, you say, I don't have a favorite place. I have my favorite people. And whenever I'm with my favorite people, it becomes my favorite place.
Yeah.
That, my friend, is one of my favorite pieces. So I give you a little bit of context. I suppose you're familiar with Elvis, that iconic singer. He has one very special song to me where he says, home is where the hurt is.
Yeah.
And that song touched me so deeply. And really, and I've been kind of homeless my whole life. I never had a place, a specific place I called home. I lived at my parents. I had flats, different flats, apartments, houses, but it never was a home. And when I discovered that song, I was like, look at that. It's not a physical place. It's
Yeah.
something inside of us. My home is in my heart.
Right.
And what I want to have in my heart are the right people.
Yeah.
And when you start thinking that way, and more importantly, feeling that way, for me, totally changes the game. You don't need a physical home anymore. You don't need a house. You don't need a villa. You don't need whatever you could call, that physical place.
Yeah.
Everything is already inside of you. But it's not that easy. And I'm really curious. So I would love to know, how did you identify your favorite people? I call them ikigais. So for me, the close friends will bring extraordinary joy, growth, support, wealth, and impact into our lives.
Yeah.
So whatever you call them, how do you identify them? How do you find them?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And I also want to say, people who are watching this live, Michelle, Oli, thank you for the contribution. We can see you there. Thank you. So yeah, how did I identify my Ikigai's friends or my community friends? Well, it's not like I have this magic pill of an answer of like, if you do this, then you're gonna find it. It's more of an experimentation. Um, so what does the internet help us do? The internet help us find our ideal echo chamber. So if you have a belief or a thought, like a thought experiment that you wholeheartedly believe in, and people around you might not agree with you on that, in the internet you're gonna find people who do agree on you with that. Um, so for me, the way I found those people was not like I was looking for them. It was more like I was putting my thoughts and ideas out there. I started this journey of like building my own personal brand. I didn't even know that it was called a personal brand. I was just like, I'm this weird introvert. I have this thoughts and this content and these wild things in my head because I don't know if you're a misfit like me, but we live in our brains most of the time. So I needed that mental space. I needed to let go of it a little bit. And that's how I started documenting my thoughts to the web, to the internet. And fast forward till today, I built an audience of maybe 20,000 followers all across socials and almost 10,000 on LinkedIn. And the value of that was, when you start putting yourself out there, people are going to show up for you. Your ikigai friends are gonna say, hey, I resonate with you. I am here. I support your message and I want to be part of this journey. And you start seeing them liking your posts repeatedly. You start seeing them commenting on your posts repeatedly. And then you start having these DM conversations. And maybe you jump on a Zoom meeting. And eventually, if you live nearby, you might get the chance to actually meet them in person. And that was kind of how I did it. And that's the most priceless thing that you can get from this whole social media online game. It's the most priceless thing. It's beyond money. It's beyond growing a brand. It's beyond followers. It's beyond status. It's the people that you meet that actually resonates with you. It's the community that you built. So that's how I did it. I showed myself out there and I started like building that wall of reputation and wall of trust with them. And funny enough, at the beginning of the journey, I hated those people because I thought they were spammers and scammers. Like, why are you always in my DMs and comments all the time? Leave me alone. I'm an introvert. I don't want that. I hated it most of the time. But the more I become a grown ass man and the more I developed and the more resilient I became, I was like, oh, this person just actually is a fan and is just like supporting me and might resonate with my message. So it's okay. I don't have to overthink about this. But that's that's the story of that.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that story. I mean, yeah, and it's so beautiful. So at least you tell me if I'm wrong, but the way I understand it, it's really by embracing your uniqueness, embracing what made you special, made you different, and expressing it, sharing it with others. That you found your people. That you found people that would resonate with that, well, that would resonate with your very unique, weird light. And they were so appealed to you that actually they started to kind of bother you at first because you weren't used to that. Like, oh,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? They're liking me? Nah, there's no way they're liking me for me. They want the money, they want the whatever, but no, it's not me. It can't be me. And that's the thing, because most misfits, I believe, at least for some time in their life, they have suffered from their difference. They have suffered from, so it could be bullying, it could be different ways, but we tend to have experienced rejection of some sort. And because of that, we kind of have more difficulty to trust others and to really connect with others and be kind of doubtful. Nah, they can't love me for me. It must be for a different reason. Like, are
It's
you
hard.
attracted to
It's hard.
me? You know, or would you want to piss off my ass or something? You know, like there's something you're starting to find, to try to find the hidden agenda
Yeah.
when sometimes they're just appeal to you because you shine so bright and they see themselves in you.
And the other side of this also applies is when like now that I have this and learned this and I'm okay with it, if someone comes to me for business and they are like directly jump into business without bothering to getting to know me and having the time to have a normal conversation, it's a red flag. I don't want to work with you if you're only interested in the brand, in the service, in the work, but you're not interested in the person, in the misfit, in the personality, then I'm not for you. Because this personality, you're gonna see it a lot in the work. This misfit is the one who's gonna put himself and his voice and his tone in the work. So if you don't want to bother getting to know this, don't invite me to do a presentation. Don't invite me for public speaking. Don't ask me to work with you because I would say no. So yeah, it's a learning process. It's a learning process. It gets easier, but I know that most introverts out there seeing this would never say, "Oh, I would never do that." Well, trust me, you can, and you will, if your goal and your impact is bigger than yourself. So it's not like I'm just doing this content because I want to be known. I don't want to be known. I'm gonna say that super out loud. It's not me that I care about. I'm the type of person who would bleed for other people, But when it comes to myself, I just hide under the table. So I learned that my message and my goal and my vision is like 100,000% bigger than myself. And if I have to show up, if I have to be on camera to help other misfits, to coach them, to teach them, to get them out of their own way, and eventually maybe get someone to solve a problem they have, then I'm gonna do it. But that doesn't mean that I want the highlights to be on me. I'm just a byproduct. I'm just like a tool that has this thing that needs to pass the message. So once I realize that, then that's okay. I can show up. I can be myself. I can be on camera. I can accept these strangers, and yeah, that's how I feel. So I'm being very honest on this podcast. I might never share these thoughts on public before. So yeah, this is maybe the dark side of building a personal brand. This is the dark side of being a misfit on social media. It's not all green and happy and joyful moments. It's also hard work, and it's hard work that matters for people who care.
I love that so much. Thank you for that share. For revealing the dark side of the personal branding and kind of the dark side for especially for an introvert. An extrovert won't be necessarily so resistant to that, except if it's a shy extrovert. But thank you so much for that. Just want to be cautious with the time. We're already over time according to what I initially planned. Honestly, I don't mind. Like I'm enjoying myself a lot. I'm also loving to see new sides of you. I mean, so if you're cool with that, we could go a little bit over because I feel we're not complete yet. I feel there's still some juicy bits to get from that, at least two. So hopefully, guys, you will still enjoy that extra few minutes. But yeah, really appreciate you going the extra mile. I mean, and so let's jump right in. So I would love to know. So and you mentioned that, right? How you don't want people to work with you if they don't want to work with you as a human being. Like you don't care about how sick they see your skills. If they don't resonate with the human being, then you're off. You're not interested. And so I'm really curious to know how you make that work. You have two different brands. You have Brand Orchestrate, which is your branding, copywriting company, and you have the Misfit Way, which is more so around helping misfits. And I feel there are many bridges between both, but they are still two different entities. So how do you make that happen? And it might help some people that feel a little bit like with split personalities to help them merge, and build bridges between those facets.
Oh man, this is the topic that I think it's not discussed enough. I'm hearing a little bit of echo. Okay, cool. So the Brand Orchestrate versus the Misfit Way. So I think the whole story of this, or why did they even bother to open a second thing? So to explain this in the best possible way is I am a big believer that do one thing, like go all in until that thing works and you start getting some results from it before you branch out into a second thing. So the Misfit Way is really a recent transition. I've been doing the Brand Orchestrate for 3 years or more. I've been dedicating most of my time on one thing. So moving that away, as a creative person, I'm a creative person first. You can see it from the hat, you can see it from how I speak and stuff. The lighting, the cool stuff, the cool glasses. Anyways, okay. So I'm a creative person. A big trend, a big pattern between creative people is they have a lot of passions. They have a lot of hobbies. They have a lot of interests, and they are polymaths. They cannot stick to one thing. If you just tell them, do just cooperating forever and you will be rich and successful and you will die happy, they will be miserable. in the first month just from the idea of that. So I'm like them, and I thought that if I just do the business side of things and try to just get money and do boring work, I'm gonna be miserable. So that's how I felt. I was building this branding business. I was in the chase for clients. I was like, when is the next client is coming from? When is it coming from? What do I need to do? Cold outreach, emails, all the stuff that really is not fulfilling to me. I feel so bad when I'm doing that. And sure, it pays the bills, but at some point I got burned out from that. And I felt like my soul and my purpose was not fulfilled. I felt like I have this bigger thing that I could serve the world. And that leads back to the misfit vision and mission. Because for me, my vision as a misfit is to fit every misfit out there and to help them see a better world and to help them learn and find their misfit way. So that's the thing that lights me up. That's the thing when I start speaking about it, I get energized. I get confidence. If like I cannot explain it. It just happens. That's the creative side. So I try to start with the creative side of things and see if I can make money from it, but it was very hard because most creatives at my level don't have the kind of budget that works like a corporate business where they have endless money. Let's just say that. Um, but from the other side, these people are the ones who need my help the most. These people are my people. These people are I can understand them 100%. So that's where I had this realization where the two things needs to break up. I have now the business that serves executive leaders and help them ghostwriting and copywriting content that drives more business and more leads to them. That pays the bills. That makes me a business owner. I can live a lifestyle that I want from that. And then the result of that, the money, the freedom that I get from doing that, I reinvest it back into the Misfit way. Because I know that people like me are also struggling in this journey. I know that they want to know how to build a business, that they want to know how to build a personal brand, that they want to know how to distinguish themselves in the market, all the good stuff. So I have this sheer responsibility that if I know how to do this for myself, I have to pass it back to them. So the way I made this distinction is I learn while making money in the Brand Orchestrate business, and then I teach what I learned on the Misfit way almost for free so that those people grow and develop. So that's the distinction between the two, and that's what I do, and that's why I do it. And if I don't achieve this purpose, I'm not creatively fulfilled. And if I'm not creatively fulfilled, I'm gonna get miserable even if I'm rich and I have all the money in the world. So that's the balance. It's always about the balance. Who are you at your core? What do you want? What do you want to achieve? Who do you want to help? It's okay to chase the whole money game of building a business and reaching a money figure. But then what? Like you have all the money in the world, and then what? Are you just gonna like retire? I don't think so. If you're a creative person, I absolutely don't think you will retire. So at least putting that creative juice and energy back into action and doing both until you find a healthy balance between the two. I think that's the best route for any creative people out there. At least that's the best route for me. And as you can see, if you actually want to subscribe to my Misfit Way newsletter, here's the banner, here's the link. Thank you, Kevin.
Of course, and yeah, I love that. I feel it is brilliant the way you decided to separate the two entities, and there's absolutely no one size fit all, right? What is working for you might absolutely not work for someone else. But I love that. You found your own way. I'm a multi-passionate myself. I even see myself as what I call a chimera, an assemblage of different weird animals that shouldn't be put together, like a platypus or something. But yeah, totally resonate with what you say. And yeah, so thank you so much for clarifying. I feel it definitely could help some people to, that might have the same kind of friction. Like, I want to serve those people, but I'm not getting any money from it. What should I do? Should I drop it altogether? There are always options. So I love that.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're obviously now reaching the end of this call. But before we go, I'd love one last piece from you, if you're okay, if you're game. I'd
Yeah.
love for you to share an advice, a strategy, a tip to a fellow misfit that is struggling with social situations. And like, back when you were a kid, when you were a baby misfit, what would you have loved to know? Like, what your now grown up, powerful Amine would say to your little Amine, baby Amine?
I thought about this for a while. I think this is the question that somehow repeats in my brain a lot, and it's the answer of it might be a little bit different than the way you asked it, but it's around parenting. Because what was the thing for me in my childhood that really made an impact, both positive and negative? It was the way I was parented. It was the way my parents treated me, and specifically my mom. My mom at this both at the same time felt made me feel like I was accepted for who I am, but also at times she was the only person I had who was rejecting me for being who I am. So it was this toxic healthy dynamic. And I wish for future generations and us as misfits who might end up being a parent to be more empathetic with your children, especially if you notice that you have an autistic child, if you have a creative child, a misfit, and you know they are a misfit. You can see it in their eyes, you can see it in the way they behave, in the way they act. If you know that you have that, be more empathetic with them, be less judgmental, show them the way and let them make their own decision. Don't show them and force your way on them, because that's the biggest thing that misfits hate is rules. They hate when you tell them what to do. They don't want to be told what to do. So a great tip for a misfit, teaching a misfit or rising a misfit, is don't tell them what to do. Show them the puzzles, show them the way, show them different paths on how that thing can be done and can be achieved, and let them explore. So that was the story of me, because when I was growing up, when I was in those 16 years old, 17 years old, that teenage hardcore age where you're such a rebel, you want to like be wild and do your thing. That was when I felt the most rejection. But when I started growing up and I started having those difficult conversations with my parents and my mom, at some point she broke the pattern and she let me do it my way and she let me explore, and that's where things really started to change. So it's all around environment. A misfit can thrive in the right environment, and a misfit can bleed to death with the wrong environment. So please, please, the world who's listening to this, make sure you nurture and you do your best to provide the best environment for your kids and for your misfits, even if this applies to your misfit friends. Maybe you're not a parent yet, but you have a misfit as a friend. Make sure you don't tell them what to do. Make sure you make them feel supported and listened and heard, and make sure you give them the right space to grow. And let me tell you, if you do that, you're gonna see a whole different version of them. You're gonna see the kind of misfit. You're gonna see the misfit who cheers you up, who would kill to for you, who would take a bullet for you, who would go the extra oceans for you. And that's the kind of misfit that I want to build. That's the kind of misfits that I want to see in the world. A misfit who leads a better world. And trust me on this, the world needs misfits, because misfits are the people who play on the edges. They are the people who uncover new innovations. They are the people who are not afraid to stand alone, who are not afraid to show up, to stand straight and to tell you what they think. They are not afraid to take action. And those people are the most people that we need the most, because we live in a world that is full of people who do not take action, that is full of people who are scared, that is full of people who just want to fit in and want to be told what to do. If you just want to fit in and want to be told what to do, there is no future, because we're not creating new rules, we're not creating new ways of doing things, we're not touching the edges. So if you want a better misfit, if you want a better world, cheer up for this kind of misfits and let them be kind and let them do it their way. That's my message.
Love that message so much. And you're so right. I feel as well it all starts with the education, with the parents. The parents have a huge impact. You are so very right. And I feel, yeah, the way I see it, like if your kid is special, your kid is special, your kid is extraordinary. And it could go the wrong way. That kid could suffer much more than others, but he also could shine so much more. It could bring so much light, so much goodness in your life. So I'm totally with you here, and that's amazing tip. Start
Yeah.
start with the parents. Go to the source. Really appreciate that. And thank you so much, Amine, for accepting my invitation. I'm really glad that you did. We had an amazing time. I love to thank our uh, kind and very eager commenters. So Danielle, Ollie, Jane, Michelle, and Dee, you've been amazing attendees. Thank you so much for your vitality, for your comments, your humor. We really appreciate you so much. So thank you. Thank you. And how could people connect with you? What would be the very best way to connect with you? Is it through LinkedIn, through your website, Misfit Way? What is the best way?
Any way that works for them. You could type my name on Google, you could reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you could just simply use the Misfit Way newsletter website and reach out to me via email. But I want to leave the show with one last message: is every misfit deserves to be heard, and you deserve to be heard. But if no one is hearing you, give yourself that power and that prompt to have the ability to hear yourself and to show up to the world. Like, it starts with you. If you have no one, you have yourself. So stop beating yourself too hard. Someone out there needs you, but they only can know that you exist if you start showing up. So don't be afraid to show up. Every misfit needs a home, and you can start that home with yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, that's beautiful message. And yeah, and if you guys that are listening to this, if you feel like a misfit, so you could reach out to Amine to have some help around that. You also could join me next week. Next week, I will be hosting a masterclass. So uncover your tribe, going from outcast to empowered misfit, and really to be able to harness your uniqueness, to leverage your uniqueness, to embrace it, so you could finally uncover your tribe, find the people that you will feel you belong to. So if you're interested, just drop me a message, or Amine, if you resonated with the Misfit Way. In any case, you will be served, because we're all about serving. We are all about helping our fellow misfits. And yeah, you know what? I mean, I feel like in the future, maybe not short term, but at least mid term, we'll definitely co-create something. I feel it's coming back time. I can't wait. I don't know what exactly, but I love that. Have a combination, a fusion of skills.
Yeah, let's see what the future holds for us. Let's keep that as a mystery for the people. Let's tease them a little bit. But I'm excited for that. I'm really
Yeah.
excited. Thank you for having me, Kevin. It was a great time talking to you today.
Yeah. Thanks to you once again. Thank you, amazing attendees, and see you next week.
See you in traffic.